My name is Emma, and I'm a 28-year-old marketing strategist at a San Francisco tech startup. I've always prided myself on being organized, logical, and 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Those qualities served me well in boardrooms, but apparently not so much in love on what should have been the happiest day of my life. I discovered that my fiancé Ryan and my maid of honor Ashley were having sex in the VIP bathroom of our wedding venue. After the initial shock and rage, I made a decision that surprised even myself. Instead of creating a scene that would traumatize our 200 wedding guests, I canceled the ceremony and told Ashley she could take my place as the bride. I watched from the audience as she wore my dress and married my ex-fiancé, while everyone applauded their spontaneous love story. What they didn't know was that Ashley had confided in me just days earlier about being pregnant. What Ashley didn't know was that Ryan is completely sterile, a fact we'd discovered together and had planned our child-free future around. I sat in that audience with a secret that would destroy them both, and I was going to enjoy every single moment of their downfall. The morning started perfectly, too perfectly. In hindsight, the Fairmont Hotel's bridal suite was filled with champagne, laughter, and the kind of nervous energy that comes with a $50 drawer wedding. My dress, a custom Vera Wang that had taken 6 months to perfect, hung like a silk waterfall against the window, catching the San Francisco morning light. Ashley Brooks, my maid of honor and best friend since childhood, was buzzing around me like an overexcited hummingbird. At 26, she still had that small-town beauty that made men stop and stare. Even here in a city full of stunning women, her blonde hair was perfectly curled, her makeup flawless, and her bridesmaid dress, a dusty rose number that complemented her figure, fit like it was made for her. "Emma, you look absolutely radiant," she gushed, adjusting my veil for the 3rd time. "Ryan is gonna die when he sees you walking down that aisle." I smiled at my reflection in the ornate mirror. 3 years of relationship, 2 years of engagement, and countless hours of wedding planning had led to this moment. Ryan Mitchell, my co-worker turned fiancé, was everything I thought I wanted. Ambitious, charming, and secure enough in himself to be with a woman who often out-earned him. "I need to use the bathroom before we start photos," I announced, standing carefully in my heavy gown. The dress was gorgeous, but felt like wearing a decorative tent. "The photographer will be here in 10 minutes. Ashley called after me. "Don't mess up your makeup." I waved her off. Ryan was supposed to be greeting guests downstairs in the main ballroom, and Ashley had been with me all morning. A few minutes alone to collect my thoughts seemed perfect. The hotel's public restrooms were crowded with wedding guests, so I decided to use the VIP bathroom near the executive offices. It was quiet, private, and far enough from the chaos that I could have a moment of peace before the whirlwind began. As I approached the heavy oak door, my hand hovering over the brushed gold handle, I heard something that made my blood freeze. Rhythmic sounds, breathing. The unmistakable audio of 2 people having sex. My first thought was sheer mortification. Some wedding guest couple had decided to have a quickie during my ceremony. The audacity was stunning. I was about to turn around and find another bathroom when I heard a voice that made my world tilt sideways. "Ryan, does that feel good?" The words were breathy, feminine, and devastatingly familiar. I'd heard that voice every day for the past month as we planned this wedding. I'd heard it on phone calls where she'd helped me choose flowers, select music, and coordinate with vendors. "Ashley, God, don't stop. came Ryan's voice, rough with pleasure. "You feel so fucking amazing." I stood frozen outside that door, my wedding dress pooling around me like spilled cream. My heart hammered so hard I was certain they could hear it through the walls. The sounds coming from inside that bathroom were obscene, passionate, and utterly destroying everything I thought I knew about my life. "Be careful with the dress." Ashley gasped. "It's my bridesmaid dress. We can't ruin it. I'll buy you 10 new dresses." Ryan growled back. The casual way he said it, like this was normal, like this was something they'd done before, hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This wasn't a last-minute panic before the wedding. This was an affair. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and started recording. My strategic mind, even in crisis, knew I'd need proof. The sounds were clear, unmistakable. Their voices were clear. The evidence was damning. 3 minutes. That's how long I stood there, listening to the two people I trusted most in the world betray me in the most intimate way possible. 3 minutes that felt like 3 years. When the sounds finally stopped, followed by guilty whispers and the rustle of clothing being rearranged, I stepped back into the shadows near a decorative plant. My heart was still racing, but something cold and calculating had settled in my chest. The door opened. "Quick, check if anyone's around," Ashley whispered. Ryan poked his head out. His usually perfect hair mussed, his vest slightly askew. When his eyes met mine, I watched the color drain from his face like water from a broken dam. "Emma," he breathed. "What are you doing here?" I looked between them, Ryan disheveled and guilty, Ashley emerging behind him with her lipstick smeared and her bridesmaid dress wrinkled. The scent of sex and expensive perfume wafted from the bathroom. "I think that's my question," I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "What are you two doing here?" Ashley immediately went into damage control mode, rushing toward me with her hands extended. "It's not what it looks like." I dropped my earring under the sink and Ryan was helping me find it. I stared at her, at this woman I'd known since we were 7 years old, who'd cried on my shoulder through breakups, who'd helped me move apartments, who'd been my maid of honor at 3 practice runs before this wedding. "Ashley," I said quietly, "there's lipstick on Ryan's neck." She looked back at him, and I watched the moment she realized their story had fallen apart before it began. "Emma, please, let me explain." I held up my hand. The cold calculation in my chest was spreading, numbing the pain, sharpening my focus. I looked at Ryan, who was frantically trying to wipe the evidence from his neck with a paper towel. "Is this the first time?" I asked. Silence. "Ryan, is this the first time you've fucked my maid of honor?" The vulgarity of the words seemed to snap something in him. His guilt transformed into defensiveness, the way it always did when he was caught in a lie. "Emma, you're being dramatic. We can talk about this later." "The wedding." "What wedding?" I interrupted. "The wedding where the groom has just finished screwing the maid of honor 30 minutes before walking down the aisle." Ashley stepped between us, and I could see the desperation in her eyes. "Emma, please. I know how this looks, but we love each other. This isn't some cheap affair. We're in love." Love. The word hit me like a slap. Not it was a mistake. Not it didn't mean anything. But love? How long? I asked quietly. "Emma, how?" "Longs." Ryan ran his hands through his hair. 6 months. 6 months. Our entire engagement. Every wedding planning session where Ashley had been so helpful, so supportive, so excited for my big day. Every dinner where Ryan had seemed distracted. Every time he'd worked late or claimed to be too tired for intimacy, I nodded slowly, processing this information with the same methodical approach I used for market analysis. "Okay," I said. They both stared at me. "Okay," Ashley repeated. "Okay, I understand now." I looked between them. These two people who'd just blown up my life 30 minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. "You're in love. You've been in love for 6 months. You've been lying to me for 6 months. Emma, I'm calling off the wedding." The words hung in the air like smoke. Ryan went pale again, and Ashley's eyes widened. "But Emma, think about all the guests, all the money." "I am thinking about it," I said, my voice gaining strength. "I'm thinking about 200 people who came here expecting a wedding. I'm thinking about my parents who saved for 2 years to help pay for this. I'm thinking about vendors who've been working for months." I turned to Ashley, and when I smiled, I saw her actually take a step back. "Which is why you're going to finish what you started. You love him. You can marry him. Today, in front of everyone." "What?" Ashley breathed. "The dress will need some alterations. You're a size bigger than me, but the seamstress is still here. The flowers are already paid for. The officiant is ready. The guests are assembled." I shrugged. "The only thing that needs to change is the bride." Ryan found his voice. "Emma, you can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. You two love each other. Prove it. Get married. Today, in front of God and everyone." I tilted my head. "Unless this isn't actually love. Unless this is just sex. And the idea of actual commitment terrifies you." I could see the trap closing around them. Say no, and they'd have to admit this was just an affair. Say yes, and they'd have to follow through on their claims of love. Ashley looked between Ryan and me, panic clear in her eyes. "Emma, this is crazy. You're in shock. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking very clearly," I assured her. "Clearer than I have in months. Actually," I pulled my phone back out and sent a quick text to the wedding coordinator. "Slight change of plans. Bride switch. I'll explain in person." "Emma, stop," Ryan said, reaching for my phone. "You're being vindictive." I pulled my phone away and looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd planned to spend my life with, who'd held me while I cried about Ashley's pregnancy scare last month, who'd agreed we didn't need children because we had each other. Vindictive would be showing the video I just recorded to your grandmother, I said quietly. Vindictive would be posting it on social media. Vindictive would be sending it to your boss. His face went ashen. "You recorded us." I recorded audio of my fiancé and maid of honor having sex in a bathroom 30 minutes before our wedding. I think any reasonable person would call that evidence gathering. I turned back to Ashley, who was now crying mascara streaks down her cheeks. "The dress is hanging in the bridal suite. The seamstress can take it in quickly. You've got 15 minutes to decide if you meant what you said about love. Or if you want me to go downstairs and explain to 200 people why the wedding is canceled." "This is insane," Ashley whispered. "This is consequence." I corrected. "You wanted him. You can have him, but you're going to take him publicly, in front of everyone, the way you should have done 6 months ago instead of lying to me." I looked at Ryan one last time. "You've got 15 minutes to decide if you love her enough to marry her, or if you'd rather I announce that the wedding is canceled due to the groom's infidelity." I turned and walked away, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Behind me, I could hear them arguing in hushed, desperate whispers. As I walked back toward the bridal suite, I felt something unexpected, relief. The weight of pretending everything was perfect, of ignoring the little signs that something was wrong, of planning a future with someone who was planning a different future entirely. It was all gone. By the time I reached the bridal suite, I was actually smiling. My phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. "We'll do it." I typed back, "Good. You have 10 minutes to get into the dress." Then I sat down, poured myself a glass of champagne, and prepared to watch the most entertaining wedding of my life. Watching Ashley squeeze into my custom Vera Wang dress was better than any reality TV show. The seamstress, Maria, worked with the efficiency of a trauma surgeon, taking in the bodice and adjusting the hem, while Ashley stood there like a mannequin in shock. "Miss Chen," Maria whispered to me as she pinned the alterations. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" I was sitting in the corner of the bridal suite in my silk robe, sipping champagne and watching the chaos unfold. Completely certain. "Maria, just make sure it fits her properly. I want this wedding to be perfect." Ashley caught my eye in the mirror. Her face was blotchy from crying, but she was trying to pull herself together. "Emma, we don't have to do this. We could just postpone. Tell everyone there was an emergency." "An emergency?" I laughed, the sound coming out sharper than I intended. "Ashley, you've been fucking my fiancé for 6 months. The emergency already happened. This is just crisis management." The seamstress's eyes widened, but she kept working. Professional discretion was part of her job, though I was sure this would be the story she told at dinner parties for years. "The guests are asking questions," Ryan said, appearing in the doorway. He'd managed to fix his hair and straighten his vest, but he still looked like a man walking to his execution. "My mom keeps asking where you are. Tell her the bride had a wardrobe malfunction." I suggested, "It's not technically a lie." I studied him as he watched Ashley in my dress. There was something in his expression, not love, exactly, but possession. He looked like a man who just won a prize he wasn't sure he wanted. "You know," I said conversationally, "I'm curious about something. When exactly did you two decide you were in love? Was it before or after you started having sex behind my back?" Ashley flinched, and the seamstress accidentally stuck her with a pin. "Ow, Emma, please, can we not do this right now? Actually, this is the perfect time," I said, standing and walking over to them, "because in about 10 minutes, you're going to walk down that aisle and promise to love, honor, and cherish each other for better or worse. I think the guests deserve to know this is a love story. Don't you?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "Emma, I know you're angry I'm not angry." I interrupted and realized I was telling the truth. "I'm fascinated. 6 months ago, you told me you loved me. You proposed to me. You planned a future with me. And now you're about to marry someone else. I'm genuinely curious about the timeline here." Ashley stepped down from the fitting platform, my dress now molded to her curves. She looked beautiful, I had to admit that. The dress that had taken months to perfect for my body looked equally stunning on hers. "Emma," she said quietly, "I never meant for this to happen. We tried to stay away from each other. But you just couldn't help yourselves." I finished, right? The heart wants what it wants. Very romantic. I walked over to the jewelry box on the vanity and pulled out the diamond earrings Ryan had given me for our anniversary. "Here," I said, handing them to Ashley. "Something borrowed." She stared at the earrings like they might bite her. "I can't wear these." "You can and you will. They match the necklace Ryan gave me for Christmas." "You know," The one he was probably shopping for while he was falling in love with you. I fastened the earrings myself, my fingers steady despite everything. Ashley stood perfectly still, like a deer in headlights. "There," I said, stepping back to admire my handiwork. "You look perfect. Absolutely radiant. Ryan, what do you think? Is this the woman you want to spend your life with?" He looked trapped. "Emma, this isn't how I wanted." "But this is how it is," I said firmly. "You made choices. Both of you. And choices have consequences. The consequence of choosing each other is that you get each other. Publicly, permanently, in front of everyone we know." My phone buzzed. A text from the wedding coordinator. "Guests are getting restless. Whatever the emergency is, we need to start in 5 minutes. Showtime." I announced, "Ashley, you're on." I helped her with the veil. My grandmother's veil, the one that had been worn by 3 generations of women in my family. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Emma," Ashley whispered as I adjusted the lace around her face. "What are you going to tell people? About why you're not the bride?" I smiled. "I'm going to tell them the truth. That love is unpredictable. That sometimes the heart chooses unexpectedly. And that when true love finds a way, we should celebrate it." Her eyes filled with tears again. "You're making us sound like some romantic fairy tale. Aren't you?" I asked innocently. 2 people who couldn't deny their passion, even on someone else's wedding day. It's very cinematic. Ryan stepped closer. "Emma, after this is over, we need to talk. About the apartment. About our things. Oh, that's all handled," I said cheerfully. "I had the locks changed this morning. Your belongings are being boxed up and will be delivered to Ashley's place by Monday. I assumed you'd be moving in together now that you're married." The look of panic that crossed both their faces was priceless. "What about the deposits?" "The lease," Ryan stammered. "The lease is in my name. The deposits were paid with my money. Consider it my wedding gift to you, a clean slate." Another text from the coordinator. "Need to start now." "Right. Lovebirds," I said, clapping my hands together. "Time to make this official. Ashley, you remember how to walk down an aisle? Right? Left foot. Right foot. Try not to trip." I handed her the bouquet white roses and peonies that had cost more than most people's monthly rent. "Try not to think about the fact that 200 people are about to watch you marry a man you stole from your best friend. Just focus on the love." Ashley took the bouquet with shaking hands. "Emma, I save it for the vows." I advised, "You'll need all the sincerity you can muster." I walked them to the door of the bridal suite, then stopped. "Oh, one more thing. Ashley, you might want to be extra careful with your health in the coming months. Prenatal vitamins, regular checkups, that sort of thing." She froze. "What?" "Well, you told me last week that you're pregnant. Remember? Congratulations. By the way, I'm sure Ryan is thrilled about becoming a father." The color drained from Ryan's face so fast I thought he might faint. Ashley looked between us, confusion and growing horror dawning in her eyes. "Ryan," she said slowly, "you look like you've seen a ghost." Ryan started, then stopped. He looked at me with something that might have been respect or might have been fear. "Emma, what are you doing?" "I'm sending you off to your new life," I said sweetly, "with complete honesty between you. No more secrets." "Right. After all, you 2 are about to promise to forsake all others. That includes forsaking the lies you've been telling." I opened the door and gestured for them to go ahead. "The aisle awaits. Don't keep love waiting." As they walked down the hallway toward the ballroom, I could hear Ashley's urgent whispers and Ryan's increasingly desperate responses. By the time they reached the back of the aisle, Ashley was gripping his arm so tightly her knuckles were white. I made my way to the ballroom through a side entrance and found a seat in the back corner, where I had a perfect view of the chaos about to unfold. My parents spotted me immediately, their faces a mixture of confusion and concern. "Emma, sweetheart, what's happening?" my mother whispered urgently as she slid into the seat next to me. "The coordinator said there was a change of plans." I said calmly. "Ryan and Ashley realize they're in love. They're getting married instead." My father leaned over. It's very romantic. Actually, love conquering all. That sort of thing." The music started the processional I'd spent hours choosing. Ashley appeared at the back of the aisle in my dress, and a murmur went through the crowd. She looked beautiful, but even from my seat I could see the panic in her eyes. Ryan was waiting at the altar, his best man looking confused but trying to roll with whatever was happening. The officiant, Father Martinez, looked like he'd been briefed on the change but was still trying to process it. As Ashley walked down the aisle to my music, in my dress I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. This wasn't my wedding anymore. This was theirs. And everything that happened next would be their responsibility, their consequence, their problem. The guests were whispering among themselves, clearly confused but trying to be polite. I could hear fragments of conversation. "Isn't that Ashley? The maid of honor. Where's Emma? Did something happen?" I smiled and pulled out my phone. Switching to the camera, this was definitely worth documenting. Ashley reached the altar, and Ryan took her hand. Even from a distance, I could see how tense they both were. Father Martinez began the ceremony with a slightly bewildered expression, but his professional training kicked in. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Ryan Mitchell and Ashley Brooks. Ashley Brooks Mitchell. It had a nice ring to it. If anyone has a reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace." I had about 50 reasons, but I kept my mouth shut. This was too entertaining to interrupt. "Ryan," Father Martinez continued, "do you take Ashley to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, till death do you part?" There was a pause, a long pause. Ryan looked down at Ashley, and I could see him swallow hard. I do. Ashley, do you take Ryan to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, till death do you part?" Ashley's voice was barely audible. "I do. By the power vested in me by the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." The kiss was awkward, uncertain. Nothing like the passionate embrace I'd witnessed in the bathroom. This was the kiss of two people who'd just realized they'd made a terrible mistake. The crowd erupted in polite applause. Though the confusion was palpable, I joined in, clapping enthusiastically. "Congratulations," I called out, just loud enough to be heard. Several people turned to look at me, and I gave them a bright smile and a thumbs up. As the new Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell walked back down the aisle, Ashley caught my eye. The look she gave me was pure venom, but I just smiled and waved like a proud friend. My phone buzzed with notifications, texts from family and friends who'd watched the whole thing unfold. "What just happened? Are you okay? Did Ashley just marry your fiancé?" I ignored them all. The reception was about to start, and I had a front row seat to watch two people realize they'd destroyed their lives for a 6-month affair. The real entertainment was just beginning. The reception was a masterclass in awkward social dynamics. I'd positioned myself at a corner table with a perfect view of the head table, where the newly married couple sat looking like they'd rather be anywhere else in the world. My parents had insisted on sitting with me, both of them shooting concerned glances my way every few minutes. My mother kept trying to start conversations about my feelings, while my father looked like he wanted to march over and punch Ryan in the face. "Emma, honey," my mother whispered, leaning close. "You don't have to stay. We can leave right now and miss the reception I paid for," I replied, cutting into my 75 per plate salmon. "Absolutely not. This is the best entertainment money can buy." The DJ was playing the playlist Ryan and I had carefully curated over months of planning. Every song was a reminder of our relationship, and I could see Ashley's discomfort growing with each romantic lyric. Ryan looked like he was developing an ulcer. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ announced, "it's time for the newlyweds' first dance." I pulled out my phone and started recording. This was going to be good. Ryan and Ashley took the floor to At Last by Etta James. The song Ryan had claimed reminded him of how he felt when he first kissed me. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a cake knife. They swayed awkwardly, Ashley's smile looking more like a grimace, Ryan's hands hovering uncertainly at her waist. Halfway through the song, I could see them whispering urgently to each other. What are they talking about? My father muttered, "Probably trying to figure out how they're going to explain this to their families." I said cheerfully, "Ashley's parents think she's single. Ryan's grandmother has been asking about grandchildren for years." As if on cue, Ryan's grandmother, Agnes Mitchell, appeared at my table. At 82, she was a force of nature who'd intimidated every girlfriend Ryan had ever brought home except me. She'd taken to me immediately, which had always made Ryan proud. "Emma, dear," she said in her crisp Boston accent. "What in God's name is happening here?" I stood to hug her. "Mrs. Mitchell, what a lovely surprise. I didn't think you'd make it. I flew in from Boston specifically for this wedding," she said, her eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Imagine my shock when I arrived to find some blonde girl in your dress marrying my grandson. It's quite romantic." "Actually," I said, guiding her to an empty chair at our table, "Ryan and Ashley discovered they were soulmates. Who was I to stand in the way of true love?" Mrs. Mitchell studied my face with the intensity of a detective. "Emma Chen, I've known you for 3 years. You don't have a romantic bone in your body when it comes to other people's happiness. What's really going on?" I grinned. I'd always liked Ryan's grandmother. "Well," I said, lowering my voice conspiratorially, "if you really want to know." Over the next 10 minutes, I gave Mrs. Mitchell a carefully edited version of events. I left out the part about recording them in the bathroom, but I was clear about the affair and the timeline. By the time I finished, Mrs. Mitchell's face had gone through several shades of red. "That little bastard," she hissed, glaring at Ryan. "And after everything you did for his career." "Oh, you know about that." "Of course I know. Ryan couldn't manage a lemonade stand without help. I've been watching you carry him for years." She turned back to me. "So what's your plan?" "My plan? Emma, dear, I didn't raise 5 children and outlive 2 husbands by being naive. You're up to something." "What is it?" Before I could answer, the DJ made another announcement. Time for the bouquet toss. All single ladies to the dance floor. I stood up. "Excuse me," Mrs. Mitchell, I believe that's my cue. Emma, no, my mother protested. You don't have to actually. I do, I said, walking toward the dance floor. I'm officially single now. It would be rude not to participate. The irony of catching the bouquet at my ex-fiancé's wedding to my ex-best friend was too delicious to pass up. I positioned myself perfectly, and when Ashley reluctantly tossed my white rose bouquet, I caught it with the precision of a professional baseball player. Looks like love is in the air for Emma, the DJ announced cheerfully. I held the bouquet high and gave a little wave to the crowd. Ashley's face was a mask of barely controlled fury. As the reception continued, I made my rounds, playing the role of the gracious ex-fiancé. It was fascinating to watch people's reactions. Some were horrified, others confused, and a few seemed to be catching on that something deeper was happening. Ryan's college roommate, Marcus, cornered me by the bar. Emma, I have to ask, are you okay? Because this is either the most mature response to a breakup in history, or you've completely lost your mind. Maybe both, I said, sipping my champagne. Marcus, can I ask you something? In college, did Ryan ever mention wanting children? Marcus looked surprised by the question. Ryan, God, no. He used to say kids were life ruiners. Why? Just curious. He seemed so happy about Ashley's pregnancy. I watched Marcus's face as the implication sank in. His eyes widened, and he turned to look at the head table where Ashley was picking at her dinner. Oh, shit, he whispered. Emma, are you saying I'm not saying anything? I interrupted. I'm just making conversation. But I could see the wheels turning in Marcus's head. Ryan's college friends knew him well, and they'd remember his adamant stance on children. Word would spread quickly through their friend group. Around 9 p.m., the inevitable happened. Ashley excused herself from the head table and cornered me near the bathroom, a different bathroom this time. We need to talk, she said, her voice tight with anger. Of course. How are you enjoying your wedding? Is it everything you dreamed of? Cut the act. Emma, I know what you're doing. What am I doing? You're sabotaging us. All those little comments, the way you're talking to people. You're trying to destroy my marriage. I blinked innocently. Your marriage. Ashley, I'm the one who made your marriage possible. If it wasn't for me, you'd still be sneaking around in bathrooms. Why are you being like this? She demanded. We used to be best friends. We used to be, I agreed, before you decided to fuck my fiancé for 6 months while helping me plan my wedding. Ashley flinched. I told you, we didn't plan for this to happen. We fell in love. Right. Love. I tilted my head. Ashley, when exactly did Ryan tell you he wanted children? The question caught her off guard. What children? You know, the small humans you're currently growing. When did Ryan express his desire to be a father? Her eyes darted away. We talked about it. He's excited. That's interesting. Because Ryan hates children. Always has. He once told me that having kids was his worst nightmare, that he'd rather die alone than be responsible for another human being. Ashley's face went pale. You're lying. Am I? Ashley, in all your conversations with Ryan over the past 6 months, how much have you actually talked about the future, about what you both want from life? I could see doubt creeping into her eyes. We've been focused on the present, on our feelings. Right. Your feelings. Very romantic. I stepped closer. Ashley, do you know why Ryan and I decided not to have children? She shook her head. Because he can't. Ryan is completely sterile. We found out 2 years ago when we started trying. The doctors were very clear, 0 sperm count. Completely irreversible. Ashley staggered backward like I'd slapped her. That's not possible. It's completely possible and completely true, which makes your pregnancy very interesting, doesn't it? I could see her mind racing, trying to process this information, the timing, the implications, the fact that she was married to a man who couldn't give her the child she was carrying. You're lying, she repeated, but her voice lacked conviction. Ashley, when was the last time you had sex with someone other than Ryan? The question hung in the air like a poison cloud. Ashley's face cycled through several emotions: confusion, realization, horror, and finally, panic. I need to talk to Ryan. Good idea, I said cheerfully. I'm sure he'll be thrilled to discuss it. Maybe you two can figure out the timeline together. Ashley rushed back toward the reception, leaving me alone by the bathroom. I checked my reflection in the mirror, touched up my lipstick, and followed her back to the party. The head table was in chaos. Ashley was whispering urgently to Ryan, who was shaking his head and trying to calm her down. Their body language screamed crisis, and other guests were starting to notice. Ryan's best man, Jake, approached their table and said something that made Ryan stand up abruptly, his chair falling backward. The crash echoed through the reception hall, and conversations stopped as people turned to stare. "Everything okay over there?" someone called out. Ryan forced a smile and waved. "Just excited to be married." But Ashley was crying now, quiet tears that she was trying to hide behind her bouquet. Ryan sat back down and took her hand, but she pulled away from him. "Mrs. Mitchell appeared at my side again. Well, that didn't take long. What didn't take long? For them to realize they've made a terrible mistake. She sipped her whiskey. "How long do you think this marriage will last?" I watched Ryan trying to calm Ashley down while their wedding guests pretended not to notice the drama unfolding at the head table. "Oh, I'd say they have about 3 more hours before the real fireworks start." Mrs. Mitchell chuckled. "Emma, remind me never to get on your bad side." "Mrs. Mitchell? I would never want to be on anyone's bad side. I'm just here to celebrate love." The band started playing again, but the reception had lost its festive atmosphere. Groups of guests were whispering among themselves, and I could see people starting to leave early. My parents approached me as the evening began to wind down. "Emma," my father said, "are you ready to go home?" "Actually," I said, "I think I'll stay until the end. I want to make sure the happy couple gets off to a good start." My mother looked concerned. "Sweetheart, this can't be healthy for you. On the contrary," I said, watching Ashley excuse herself from the table again, this time heading for the exit. "This is the healthiest I've felt in months." Ryan watched his new wife leave, then looked around the reception hall until his eyes found mine. The expression on his face was a mixture of anger, fear, and something that might have been regret. I raised my champagne glass to him in a toast. The real fun was just getting started. Monday morning came like a hangover after a 3-day bender. I arrived at the office of Tech Forward Solutions at exactly 8:30 a.m., the same time I'd been arriving for the past 3 years. The difference was that this time, I walked in as a single woman who'd just watched her ex-fiancé marry her ex-best friend at what was supposed to be her own wedding. The office buzzed with the kind of energy that only comes from fresh gossip. I could feel eyes on me as I made my way to my desk, could hear conversations stopping mid-sentence as I passed. By now, everyone knew what had happened at the Fairmont Hotel on Saturday. Emma, Sarah Williams. My manager appeared at my cubicle before I'd even finished setting down my coffee, my office. Now, Sarah was a force of nature in her early 40s, with the kind of sharp business acumen that had earned her respect in Silicon Valley's boys' club. She'd mentored me since my first day, and I knew she was probably the only person in the building who was genuinely concerned about my well-being rather than just hungry for drama. "Close the door," she said once we were in her glass-walled office. "Emma, I heard about the wedding. Are you okay?" I settled into the chair across from her desk. "I'm fine, Sarah. Better than fine. Actually," she studied my face with the intensity she usually reserved for quarterly reports. "You attended your own canceled wedding and watched your fiancé marry your maid of honor. That's not fine. That's either superhuman emotional control or a complete psychological break. Option A," I said with a smile. Though I understand why it might look like option B. Sarah leaned back in her chair. "Ryan called in sick today. And tomorrow, and Wednesday, honeymoon. That's what he said. Though according to Jake from accounting, who apparently attended your situation, Ryan and Ashley were seen arguing in the hotel parking lot at midnight. Doesn't sound very honeymoonish." I shrugged. "New marriage jitters. I'm sure they'll work it out." "Emma, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Are you planning some kind of revenge? Because if you are, I need to know about it before it affects this company." The question was fair. Sarah knew me well enough to recognize that I didn't just accept defeat gracefully. I was the type of person who analyzed problems from every angle and developed strategic solutions. "I'm not planning revenge," I said truthfully. "Revenge implies I want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt anyone. Sarah, I just want the truth to come out." "What truth?" I met her eyes. "The truth about who Ryan really is. The truth about what he's capable of. The truth about the project proposals he's been submitting under his name." Sarah's expression sharpened. "What are you talking about?" "The Morrison account proposal that got Ryan noticed by upper management last month. I wrote it. The client retention strategy that earned him a commendation. Mina. The social media campaign that brought in 3 new clients. Also Mina." "Emma, I have documentation." "Sarah, emails, drafts with timestamps, version histories for the past year. I've been doing Ryan's work while he took credit for it. I told myself it was because we were a team, because his success was our success." I laughed bitterly. Turns out I was just being used. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Ryan isn't here to defend himself, and because I'm tired of pretending. I've been covering for him for so long that I forgot what it felt like to take credit for my own work. What do you want me to do with this information?" "Nothing for now, but the Peterson Industries presentation is this Friday. Ryan's supposed to present the quarterly strategy plan to their board. The plan that I spent 60 hours writing while he was busy with other things." Sarah's eyes narrowed. And Ryan doesn't know the first thing about that plan. He never read the full proposal, never sat in on the research meetings, never spoke to the client. If he tries to present it, he's going to crash and burn in front of the biggest potential client we've had all year. "So you're going to let him fail." "I'm going to let him be himself," I corrected. "Without my help." Sarah nodded slowly. "And if the Peterson account is lost because of his incompetence, then maybe management will finally see what I've been covering up for 3 years." There was a knock on Sarah's office door. Through the glass wall, I could see Jake from accounting, looking nervous. "Come in," Sarah called. Jake stuck his head in, Sorry to interrupt, but Emma, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent. My stomach dropped. Who? Ashley. Ashley Mitchell. I think she looks pretty upset. Sarah and I exchanged glances. Send her to conference room B. Sarah said, and Jake, close the door behind you and don't mention this to anyone. 5 minutes later, I was sitting across from Ashley in the small conference room, studying the woman who'd been my best friend for over 20 years. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed. Her makeup was smeared. And she was wearing the same clothes from the wedding reception. You look like hell, I said without preamble. I haven't slept, she replied, her voice hoarse. Emma, we need to talk. We're talking. Ryan can't have children. I leaned back in my chair. I know you knew. You knew and you didn't tell me. Ashley, I told you on Saturday, right before you walked down the aisle. You mentioned prenatal vitamins. You didn't say he was sterile. I assumed you'd figure it out. I tilted my head. Did you really think I was just making conversation about your health? Ashley buried her face in her hands. This is a nightmare. My baby, Ryan's not the father. No, he's not. Which raises an interesting question, who is? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Ashley's shoulders started shaking, and I realized she was crying. It was Marcus, she whispered finally. Marcus. Ryan's college roommate, Marcus. She nodded miserably. It was just one night, about 8 weeks ago. I was drunk, and Ryan was working late again, and Marcus was there, and you thought you'd try out the entire friend group. Ashley's head snapped up. It wasn't like that. It just happened. Once, I felt terrible about it. Terrible enough to confess to Ryan, no. God, no. I thought it would just go away. That maybe the baby was Ryan's, even though the timing was weird. I stared at her. Ashley, you're 26 years old. How do you not understand how reproduction works? I was scared. Okay. And confused. And then you started saying all those things about Ryan not wanting children. And I realized, you realized you'd married the wrong man. Ashley's tears turned into full sobs. Emma, I fucked up. I fucked up so badly. Ryan won't talk to me. He slept on the couch last night. This morning he just stared at me like I was a stranger. Well, technically, you are strangers. You've been having an affair, not a relationship. There's a difference. What am I supposed to do? I studied her tear-stained face. This woman who'd been my sister in every way that mattered, who'd thrown away 2 decades of friendship for a 6-month affair with a man who couldn't even give her what she wanted. You have a few options, I said finally. You can tell Ryan the truth about the baby's father and get the marriage annulled. You can keep lying and try to convince him to raise another man's child. Or you can come clean to everyone and deal with the consequences. What would you do? The question caught me off guard. What would I do if you were me? What would you do? I thought about it for a moment. I would never have been in this situation, Ashley, because I don't betray the people I love. She flinched like I'd slapped her. But since you're asking for advice, I continued. I'd suggest you start with honesty. Tell Ryan about Marcus. Tell Marcus about the baby. Tell your parents. Tell everyone who needs to know. And then figure out how to move forward. Ryan will divorce me. Probably Marcus won't want anything to do with the baby. Maybe not. But that's his choice to make, not yours. Ashley wiped her nose with a tissue. Emma, I know I have no right to ask this, but will you help me? I stared at her. Help you what? Figure out how to tell everyone. how to fix this mess. The audacity was breathtaking. Ashley, you want me to help you clean up the mess you made by betraying me. You're good at this stuff. Strategy, planning, handling people. I don't know how to do any of that. That's not my problem anymore. Please. Emma, I'm desperate. I stood up. Ashley, 3 days ago you were my best friend and my maid of honor. Now you're my ex-best friend and my ex-fiance's wife. The only advice I'm going to give you is this. Actions have consequences. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Ashley, stay away from my workplace. This is my professional environment, and I won't have you disrupting it with your personal drama. As I left the conference room, I could hear her crying behind me. Part of me, a very small part, felt sorry for her. She was young, stupid, and completely out of her depth. But mostly, I felt free. Sarah was waiting for me at my desk. Everything okay? Better than okay, I said, settling into my chair. Sarah, about the Peterson presentation on Friday. I think I should be the one to present it. Instead of Ryan's going to be dealing with some personal issues for the foreseeable future. And since I wrote the proposal, I'm the most qualified person to present it. Sarah smiled. I'll make the arrangements. Emma. Yes, welcome back. I opened my laptop and pulled up the Peterson file. For the first time in 3 years, I was going to take credit for my own work. It felt like the first day of the rest of my life. Thursday morning, Ryan finally returned to work. I watched from my desk as he slunk through the office like a wounded animal, avoiding eye contact with everyone. He'd lost weight. His usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, and there were dark circles under his eyes that suggested he hadn't been sleeping well. The office buzzed with barely contained whispers as he made his way to his cubicle, which was conveniently located directly across from mine. We'd requested adjacent desks when we started dating, thinking it would be romantic to work side by side. Now the proximity felt like a cosmic joke. Morning, Ryan, I said cheerfully as he sat down. How was the honeymoon? He glared at me with an expression that could have curdled milk. Emma, we need to talk. I'm listening. Not here. Conference room. Now, I glanced at my computer screen, where I was putting the finishing touches on tomorrow's Peterson presentation. Actually, I'm pretty busy. Tomorrow's the big presentation. You know, the one you're supposed to give to Peterson Industries. Ryan's face went pale. In all the drama of the past week, he'd clearly forgotten about the most important presentation of the quarter. Shit, he muttered under his breath. Emma, about that. Don't worry. I interrupted. Sarah and I discussed it yesterday. Since you've been dealing with personal matters, I'll be handling the presentation. What? No. That's my presentation. I tilted my head innocently. Is it? Because I seem to remember writing every word of it. I have the drafts with timestamps if you'd like to review them. Ryan's jaw tightened. Emma, you can't just steal my work. The irony was so thick it was practically visible. Steal your work. Ryan, I think you have that backwards. We need to talk. Privately, I saved my work and followed him to the same conference room where I'd met with Ashley the day before. Ryan closed the door and immediately went on the attack. What the hell do you think you're doing? Working. It's what people do at offices. You know what I mean. This whole act pretending everything's fine, taking over my presentation, playing innocent, you're trying to destroy my career. I sat down and folded my hands on the table. Ryan, I'm not trying to destroy anything. I'm simply no longer covering for your incompetence. My incompetence. When was the last time you actually wrote a proposal from start to finish? When was the last time you attended a client meeting without me doing all the prep work? When was the last time you had an original idea that wasn't recycled from something I'd already developed? Ryan stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. That's not. We were a team. No, we weren't. I was doing the work while you took the credit. There's a difference. I always acknowledged your contributions. To me, in private, never to management, never in meetings, never when it mattered for promotions or raises. I leaned forward. Tell me, Ryan, what's the Peterson Industries account worth to the company? It's worth a lot. How much? What's their annual marketing budget? What are their primary demographics? What's their biggest challenge in the current market? Ryan's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Emma, I don't focus on those details. That's why we made such a good team. You handled the research. I handled the client relationships. Except you've never met anyone from Peterson Industries. I've been the primary contact for 6 months. They think I'm your research assistant. The color drained from Ryan's face as the implications sank in. You can't present without me. They're expecting me. They're expecting the person who's been handling their account. That's me. I stood up. Ryan, here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, I'm going to present the Peterson proposal that I wrote. I'm going to answer their questions using the research I conducted, and I'm going to close the deal using the strategy I developed. And what am I supposed to do? Whatever you want. Attend the meeting as a supporting team member. Or don't. It's your choice. Ryan grabbed my arm as I headed for the door. Emma, please, we can work this out. I know you're angry about Ashley. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back up at his face. Ryan, this has nothing to do with Ashley. This is about 3 years of you taking credit for my work while I convinced myself it was love. I never asked you to. You never asked me not to. Either you just let me do it. I pulled my arm free. But that's over now. From now on, you sink or swim on your own merit. I left him standing in the conference room and returned to my desk. Within minutes, I could see him frantically pulling up files on his computer, probably trying to familiarize himself with the Peterson account details he should have known months ago. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Marcus. We need to talk. I saved the number under Baby Daddy and typed back, about what? Ashley told me about the baby. And about Ryan. Can we meet after work? Starbucks on Market Street. 6 p.m. The rest of the day passed in a blur of final presentation preparations. Sarah stopped by my desk around 4 p.m., looking pleased. The Peterson team confirmed for tomorrow at 10 a.m., she said. 4 executives, including their CMO. This could be the biggest account we land this year? I'm ready. I know you are. Emma, I've been thinking about what you told me yesterday. About your uncredited contributions to Ryan's work. I looked up from my laptop, and after tomorrow's presentation, assuming it goes well, I'd like to discuss your career trajectory here. I think it's time we talked about a promotion. My heart jumped. Really? Really? You've been flying under the radar for too long. Sarah glanced over at Ryan's cubicle, where he was still frantically researching. Some people are born leaders. Emma, others just get good at taking credit. It's time we recognize the difference. At 6 p.m. sharp, I walked into Starbucks to find Marcus already there, looking like he'd aged 5 years in the past week. Ryan's college roommate was normally the life of any party charming, confident, and perpetually optimistic. The man sitting across from me looked haunted. "Thanks for meeting me," he said as I sat down with my latte. "You look terrible." "I feel terrible." He ran his hands through his hair. "Emma, I need you to know that I had no idea about Ryan and Ashley. If I'd known they were having an affair, you wouldn't have slept with her." Marcus flinched. It's complicated." "No, it's really not. You had sex with your best friend's girlfriend. That's pretty straightforward." "I was drunk. She was crying about something. Said she felt neglected. One thing led to another. And now she's pregnant with your baby." Marcus's face crumpled. "I never wanted kids. Emma, I'm 29. I live in a studio apartment. I can barely take care of myself. I'm not father material." "Well, congratulations. You're about to become father material whether you want to or not. What am I supposed to do?" I studied his face, seeing genuine panic and confusion. Unlike Ryan and Ashley, Marcus hadn't set out to hurt anyone. He'd made a stupid mistake while drunk, but he wasn't malicious. "What do you want to do?" I asked. "I want to go back in time and make different choices." He laughed bitterly, "But since that's not an option, I guess I want to do the right thing." "Whatever that is, the right thing is probably to take responsibility for your actions." "Does that mean marrying Ashley?" "Ashley's already married. That marriage is a joke and everyone knows it. Ryan won't even look at her." I sipped my latte, considering. "Marcus, do you have feelings for Ashley? Real feelings, not just guilt and panic." He was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Maybe she's beautiful, and she was so vulnerable that night. But I barely know her as a person. She's always just been Ryan's girlfriend's friend. Well, now she's Ryan's wife and the mother of your child, so you should probably get to know her." "What about Ryan?" "He's my best friend." Ryan lost the right to that loyalty when he started cheating on me with Ashley. I met his eyes. "Marcus, Ryan isn't the person you think he is. The successful, ambitious guy you admired in college. That's been me for the past 3 years. I've been writing his proposals, doing his research, managing his accounts. He's a fraud." Marcus stared at me. That can't be true." "It's completely true. Tomorrow I'm presenting a proposal to Peterson Industries that Ryan was supposed to present. Except Ryan doesn't know anything about Peterson Industries because I've been handling that account while he took credit." "Jesus, Emma, why didn't you ever say anything?" "Because I thought I loved him. And love makes you do stupid things." We sat in silence for a few minutes, both lost in our thoughts. "So what happens now?" Marcus asked finally. "Now you figure out what kind of man you want to be. Do you want to be the kind of man who abandons his responsibilities, or the kind who steps up when things get complicated?" And Ashley made her choices. Now she gets to live with the consequences. But that baby didn't choose any of this. That baby deserves to have at least one parent who's willing to step up. Marcus nodded slowly. "I should call her." "Probably, but Marcus, be honest with her. And with yourself. Don't marry her out of guilt or obligation. Figure out if you actually want to build a life with her, or if you just want to assuage your conscience." As I walked home from Starbucks, I felt lighter than I had in years. Tomorrow's presentation would be my chance to finally show what I could do without Ryan holding me back. And regardless of what happened with Ashley, Marcus, and their complicated situation, I was finally free from the web of lies and compromises that had defined my life for the past 3 years. My phone buzzed with another text from Ashley. "Can we please talk? I'm sorry about coming to your office. I'm desperate. I deleted the message without responding. I'd spent enough time cleaning up other people's messes. It was time to focus on my own future. Friday morning arrived with the crisp clarity of a fresh start. I dressed carefully in my best navy blazer and white silk blouse, the kind of outfit that commanded respect in a boardroom. Today wasn't just about landing the Peterson account. It was about reclaiming my professional identity. I arrived at the office an hour early to set up the conference room. The Peterson Industries presentation was printed and bound, backup copies ready, laptop tested twice. I'd rehearsed every slide, anticipated every possible question, and prepared contingency answers for scenarios Ryan had never even considered. Sarah found me adjusting the projector settings at 9:30 a.m. You ready for this? I've been ready for 3 years. And Ryan, I glanced toward his cubicle, where he sat staring at his computer screen with the expression of a man facing execution. Ryan's having an existential crisis. Should I be worried about him derailing the meeting? He won't. He doesn't know enough about the account to derail anything. At 9:55 a.m., the Peterson Industries team arrived. 4 executives in expensive suits, led by their chief marketing officer, Patricia Wong, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and the sharp eyes of someone who'd built her career on spotting bullshit from a mile away. Ms. Chen, Patricia said, extending her hand, it's wonderful to finally meet you in person. Your emails and strategy briefs have been impressive. Thank you, Miss Wong. I'm excited to present our full proposal today. Ryan appeared beside us, looking like he'd slept in his clothes. Patricia, good to see you again. Patricia looked confused. I'm sorry. Have we met? The silence that followed was deafening. Ryan's face went through several shades of red as he realized his mistake. This is Ryan Mitchell, I said smoothly. He's part of our account team. Ryan, this is Patricia Wong, Peterson's CMO, and her colleagues David Chen, Marketing Director, Jennifer Rodriguez, Brand Manager, and Michael Park, Director of Digital Strategy. Ryan shook hands all around, trying to recover his composure. Of course. Sorry, I'm terrible with faces. Patricia's expression suggested she didn't buy that explanation for a second. Shall we get started? I suggested, leading them into the conference room. For the next 45 minutes, I presented the marketing strategy I'd spent 6 months developing. I outlined Peterson's current market position, identified their key challenges, and proposed solutions that would increase their brand visibility by 40% within the first year. Your analysis of our target demographic is spot on. David Chen commented during my presentation, we've been struggling to reach the 25 to 35 age group, and your social media strategy addresses exactly that gap. I'm particularly impressed with the budget allocation. Jennifer Rodriguez added, most agencies come in with flashy proposals that ignore ROI. This is both creative and fiscally responsible. Throughout the presentation, Ryan sat silently, occasionally nodding like he understood what was being discussed. But when Patricia asked about implementation timelines, he jumped in. We could definitely fast-track the initial phase, he said confidently. Launch everything within 6 weeks. I watched Patricia's eyebrows rise. 6 weeks. Ms. Chen's timeline shows 3 months for phase 1. Ryan looked at me, panic flickering in his eyes. Well, if we really push the 3-month timeline accounts for proper market research, focus group testing, and gradual rollout, I interjected smoothly. Rushing the launch could compromise the campaign's effectiveness. Exactly what I was thinking. Ryan said quickly. Patricia studied him with the intensity of a predator sizing up prey. Mr. Mitchell, what's your assessment of our biggest competitor's recent rebranding? Ryan's mouth opened and closed. They're rebranding Apex Industries. They launched their new campaign last month. Right. Apex. Ryan looked at me desperately. Emma, you've been following that closely. Actually, Patricia said, her voice cooling, I'd like to hear Mr. Mitchell's perspective first. The silence stretched until it became painful. Ryan had no idea what she was talking about because he'd never bothered to research Peterson's competitors. I'd analyzed Apex's campaign extensively and included a competitive analysis in Section 4 of the proposal, but Ryan had clearly never read that far. You know what? Ryan said finally, I think Emma should take this one. She's our research specialist. Patricia's expression shifted from cool to arctic. In the corporate world, passing questions to subordinates was a sign of either delegation or incompetence, and the context made it clear which this was. Mrs. Chen, Patricia prompted. I pulled up the competitive analysis slide. Apex's rebrand focused heavily on nostalgia marketing, which initially showed promise with their core demographic. However, their execution lacks authenticity. The campaign feels manufactured rather than genuine. More importantly, they've neglected digital engagement entirely, which gives Peterson a significant opportunity to capture market share through strategic social media positioning. Brilliant analysis. Michael Park said, We've been watching Apex's numbers, and you're right. Their digital presence is practically non-existent. The meeting continued for another 20 minutes, with the Peterson team asking increasingly detailed questions about implementation, budget flexibility, and long-term strategy. I answered every question confidently, backed by months of research. Ryan contributed nothing beyond the occasional absolutely and great point. When the Peterson team left, they shook my hand warmly and barely acknowledged Ryan's existence. We'll have a decision by Monday. Patricia told me, Ms. Chen, this has been one of the most professional presentations we've seen this year. After they left, Sarah appeared in the conference room doorway. How did it go? See for yourself, I said, gesturing to Ryan, who was slumped in his chair like a deflated balloon. Ryan, Sarah prompted, your thoughts on the meeting. Ryan looked up with the expression of a man who'd just watched his career implode in real time. It went fine. Sarah's tone was neutral, but I could see the calculation in her eyes. Emma, your assessment. I think we'll hear good news on Monday. Sarah nodded. Ryan, could I see you in my office? Emma, stay here for a moment. As Ryan trudged out of the conference room like a man walking to his execution, Sarah closed the door and turned to me. That was masterful, she said. I watched the last 20 minutes through the glass wall. Ryan looked like a deer in headlights. He didn't know any of the account details. That was obvious. Emma, I need to ask you directly, how long has this been going on? Ryan taking credit for your work. I thought about it. Since about 6 months after we started dating. At first, I thought we were collaborating. Then I realized I was doing all the work while he took all the credit. And you never reported it. I was in love with him. I thought supporting his career was the same as building our future together. Sarah sat down across from me. Emma, what you presented today that was senior-level strategy work, the kind of thinking we look for in management positions. My heart started beating faster. Sarah, I'm recommending you for immediate promotion to senior marketing strategist, 20% salary increase, your own office, and most importantly, your own accounts. No more collaborating unless you choose to. I stared at her. Are you serious? Completely serious. You've been undervalued here for too long. Sarah's expression hardened. As for Ryan, his performance review is going to be illuminating. That afternoon, while I was organizing my files and processing the news of my promotion, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Emma, this is Ashley. Please don't delete this. Against my better judgment, I opened the message. I talked to Marcus last night. We're going to tell Ryan everything. About the baby, about Marcus being the father, about the marriage being a mistake. I know you hate me, but I thought you should know. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. Why are you telling me this? Because you were right. About everything. Ryan and I don't love each other. We don't even know each other. And I can't build a marriage on lies. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just wanted you to know that you were right, and I was wrong. And I'm sorry. I deleted the conversation without responding. Ashley's crisis of conscience was too little, too late to matter to me. Around 4 p.m., Ryan appeared at my desk. He looked like he'd been crying. Emma, we need to talk. About what? About everything. About work. About us. About what happened in that meeting. I saved my work and looked at him. Ryan, there is no us. There hasn't been since Saturday. I know, and as for work, I think Sarah made her position clear. You're going to have to start carrying your own weight. I can't do this without you. The admission hung between us like a confession. For 3 years, I'd enabled his mediocrity while sacrificing my own potential. Hearing him finally admit it should have felt like vindication. Instead, I just felt sad. Then you'll have to learn, I said quietly, because I'm done carrying you. Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went completely white. What? I asked. Despite myself, Ashley wants to meet. She says she has something important to tell me. He looked up at me with desperate eyes. Emma, my whole life is falling apart. Yes, I agreed. It is. But that's what happens when you build your life on lies. As Ryan walked away to meet his wife and confront the truth about his marriage, I turned back to my computer and started planning my new future. For the first time in 3 years, I was excited about Monday morning. My phone rang. Patricia Wong's number. Missy Chen? I wanted to call personally. Peterson Industries would like to move forward with your proposal. When can we start? I smiled, looking out the window at the San Francisco skyline. We can start whenever you're ready. Ms. Wong, I've got nothing but time. Monday morning brought news that the Peterson Industries account was officially ours worth $2, $3 million over 3 years. Sarah called an all-hands meeting to announce the win. And for the first time in my career, I was the one receiving congratulations instead of watching Ryan accept praise for my work. This is the largest account Tech Forward has landed this year, Sarah announced to the assembled staff. I want to especially recognize Emma Chen, who led the strategy development and presentation that closed this deal. The applause felt surreal. I caught sight of Ryan in the back of the room, his face a mask of barely controlled desperation. He'd called in sick again on Friday after his meeting with Ashley, and today he looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. After the meeting, I was moving into my new office, an actual office with walls and a door, when Marcus appeared in my doorway. "Congratulations on the promotion," he said, though he looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Thanks. How are you doing?" "I've been better." He glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "Emma, can we talk?" Privately, I closed my office door and gestured for him to sit. How did Friday go? Marcus ran his hands through his hair. It was a disaster. Ashley told Ryan everything about the baby, about me being the father, about the marriage being a mistake. I thought he was going to punch me. Did he? No, but only because Ashley was there. He just stared at me like I was a stranger. Then he walked out. Where did he go? No idea. Ashley said he didn't come home Friday night, or Saturday, or Sunday. She's been calling him nonstop, but he won't answer. I felt a flicker of concern despite myself. Ryan might be a lying, cheating user, but I didn't want him to do anything stupid. Have you talked to him at all? I tried calling yesterday. He picked up once, just to tell me that I was a fucking traitor and that he never wanted to see me again. Marcus's voice was heavy with guilt. Emma, I know I fucked up, but Ryan's my oldest friend. We've known each other since freshman year of college. Marcus, you didn't betray your friendship. You had sex with someone you didn't know was taken. Ryan's the one who betrayed everyone. But if you hadn't slept with Ashley, she'd still be pregnant with someone else's baby, and Ryan would still be raising a child that isn't his. You didn't create this mess. You just revealed it. Marcus nodded slowly. Ashley wants to get the marriage annulled. She says there's no point in pretending anymore. That's probably for the best. She also wants me to be involved with the baby. She says she doesn't expect anything from me, but she'd like me to be part of the kid's life. And what do you want? I'm terrified, he admitted, but maybe that's normal. I keep thinking about how my dad wasn't around when I was growing up, and how much that sucked. I don't want to be that guy, so don't be. It's not that simple. I barely know Ashley as a person. We're talking about raising a child together when we've had maybe 5 real conversations in our entire lives. I leaned back in my chair, studying Marcus's face. He looked genuinely conflicted, not just guilty. Marcus, do you want to get to know her? I think so. Maybe. She's not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Ryan always talked about her like she was this party girl who was only interested in shopping and getting attention. But when we talked on Friday, she seemed smart and scared, but determined to do the right thing. Ryan's not exactly a reliable narrator when it comes to women. Yeah, I'm starting to figure that out. Marcus stood up. Emma, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think I'm crazy for wanting to try? To get to know Ashley and figure out if we could make something work. I thought about it. I think you'd be crazy not to try. You're having a baby together, whether you're romantically involved or not. Might as well find out if you actually like each other. After Marcus left, I tried to focus on work, but I kept thinking about Ryan. He might have treated me terribly, but 3 years of caring about someone doesn't just disappear overnight. Around lunchtime, Sarah knocked on my office door. Emma, have you heard from Ryan today? No. Why? He's supposed to be presenting the Morrison Industries quarterly report this afternoon, but he's not answering his phone or responding to emails. My stomach dropped. Morrison Industries was one of Ryan's few remaining accounts, one where he actually did know the client details because I'd forced him to handle the relationship himself. When's the presentation? 2:00. If he doesn't show up, we'll have to cancel, and Morrison is already upset about some billing issues from last month. I glanced at my computer clock. 3 p.m. Sarah, I can cover the Morrison presentation if needed. I'm familiar with their account. You are. I helped Ryan prepare for their last quarterly review. I know their current campaigns and budget allocations. Sarah looked relieved. Emma, You're a lifesaver. Let me call Morrison and see if they're okay with the substitution. 20 minutes later, I was hastily preparing for a presentation I'd never planned to give, covering for a man who'd spent 3 years taking credit for my work. The irony wasn't lost on me. The Morrison presentation went smoothly. They were actually pleased to work with someone who knew their account history and could answer detailed questions about their campaigns. But afterward, I couldn't shake my worry about Ryan. At 5 p.m., I did something I probably shouldn't have. I drove to the apartment Ryan and I had shared, the one where Ashley now lived. Ashley answered the door looking like she'd been crying for days. Her hair was unwashed. She was wearing an oversized t-shirt and sweatpants, and her eyes were red and swollen. "Emma, what are you doing here?" "I'm looking for Ryan. He missed an important presentation today." "He's not here." "I haven't seen him since Friday." "Ashley, where would he go? Does he have friends I don't know about? Family in the area?" "I don't know." Ashley's voice cracked. "Emma, I'm worried about him. The way he looked when he left. I've never seen anyone look so broken. Despite everything, I felt a stab of genuine concern. What exactly did you tell him? Everything about Marcus, about the baby not being his, about the marriage being a mistake, about how I'd been lying to everyone, including myself. How did he react? At first, he didn't say anything. He just sat there staring at Marcus like he was trying to figure out if he was real. Then he started laughing. This horrible, bitter laugh. He said, Of course this is happening. My career is over. My marriage is a lie. And my best friend knocked up my wife. This is perfect." My blood ran cold. "Ashley, did he say anything else? Anything about what he was planning to do?" "He said he was going to disappear, that maybe everyone would be better off if he just left." I pulled out my phone and started calling Ryan's number. It went straight to voicemail. "Emma," Ashley said quietly, "I know you hate me, and I know I have no right to ask this. But Ryan, he's not okay. I'm scared he's going to do something stupid." I looked at this woman who'd been my best friend for 20 years, who'd betrayed me in the worst possible way, who was now carrying another man's child while married to my ex-fiancé, and I realized that despite everything, I couldn't let Ryan hurt himself. "Do you have his mom's number?" "Yeah, but she's in Portland. Call her, see if she's heard from him. I'm going to check the places he might go." For the next 3 hours, I drove around San Francisco looking for a man who'd destroyed my life. I checked his favorite bar, the gym where he used to work out, the coffee shop near our old apartment. Nothing. Finally, around 9 p.m., I found him. He was sitting on a bench in Golden Gate Park, staring out at the water in the dark. There was an empty bottle of whiskey beside him, and he looked like he'd been there for hours. Ryan. He looked up at me with eyes that were completely hollow. "Emma, of course it's you. People are worried about you." "People?" He laughed that same bitter laugh Ashley had described. "What people?" "My wife who's pregnant with my best friend's baby. My best friend who stabbed me in the back. My boss who probably wants to fire me." I sat down beside him, keeping a safe distance. "Your mother, for one," Ashley called her. "Ashley." Ryan's voice was full of venom. "Do you know what the worst part is? It's not that she cheated. It's not even that she's having someone else's baby. It's that she looked me in the eye on our wedding day and pretended to love me while knowing it was all a lie. Ryan, just like you, pretended to love me while knowing I was a fraud." The accusation hit like a slap. "I didn't pretend to love you. I did love you. Then why didn't you ever tell me I was failing? Why didn't you ever say, Ryan, you're not good at this job. You need to try harder. Why did you just let me live in a fantasy? I stared at him because I thought I was helping you. I thought if I supported you, eventually you'd become the person I believed you could be. Well, congratulations. You enabled me so well that I convinced myself I was actually competent. Right up until I stood in front of the Peterson Industries team and realized I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. We sat in silence for a moment. Two people who'd spent 3 years lying to themselves and each other. Ryan, what are you going to do? I don't know. Quit my job. Probably move back to Portland. Start over. And Ashley can figure out her own life. She's got Marcus now. What about the apartment? Your stuff. Ashley can have it all. I don't want any reminders of this disaster. I looked at this man I'd once planned to marry. This broken person who'd been revealed as fundamentally hollow when the pressure was applied. I felt sorry for him. But I also felt nothing, no love, no anger, no desire to fix him. Ryan, I need you to promise me something. What? Promise me you're not going to hurt yourself. Whatever you're thinking right now, promise me you're not going to do anything permanent. He was quiet for a long time. I'm not going to kill myself, if that's what you're asking. But Emma, I think the person I used to be, that person is already dead. I stood up. Come on, I'll drive you home. I don't have a home. You have a hotel room. Then, somewhere safe. As I drove Ryan to a Holiday Inn near the airport, I realized this was probably the last time we'd ever speak. Our relationship, professional and personal, was finally, truly over. Emma, he said as I pulled into the hotel parking lot. For what it's worth. I'm sorry about everything. I know you are. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I thought about it. I think forgiveness is beside the point. Ryan, we're just done. As I watched him walk into the hotel lobby, shoulders slumped in defeat, I felt a strange sense of closure. The man who'd defined my life for 3 years was disappearing into his own consequences, and I was finally completely free